Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I am Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at pitching for today, the 8th of August. It is Friday. We do have a 14 game main slate ahead of us this evening. 14 games on a Friday sounds like a blast. Wish they would have just made it 15 and included the Reds-Pirates game that starts all of 25 minutes before this slate starts. That would have added Chase Burns to our options, and I would have enjoyed that. But we don't have it, but we do have 14 games. I don't believe we have any weather to worry about. We'll try to get logged into our weather station here. And see what we have, but as far as I know, no weather issues ahead of us this evening. Looking at some other weather as far as the wind, temperatures. Minnesota, St. Louis, the warmest games of the slate. Both places have wind blowing out. Ironically, the strongest winds. I don't include San Francisco in my wind breakdown. Definitely very interesting. In Detroit, in New York, not that that's all that big of a deal, but the Midwest does look like the best spots for hitting at this point. But we are here to talk about pitching. This is a first look at the pitching options on the slate. And I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play on FanDuel, I'll cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get the stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Now with all that said and done, let's just jump into the games. The A's and Orioles. I really don't have any intrigue into either pitcher in this spot. Both offenses have their issues. Baltimore struggled a bunch, generally more against left-handed pitching, generally more on the road. But the A's can strike out plenty, but they're taking on a pitcher who is not much of a strikeout guy. He did just dominate Colorado, but that's Colorado. Just doesn't intrigue me. High whip, low Ks, 21 home runs allowed. It's one every 5.5 innings, so it's not ridiculous, but still, he's in the upper tier as far as home runs allowed, raw numbers wise. So just no interest, even though he does get a K bump. I'm just not super excited. JT Ginn, 2 starts ago, looked pretty strong. Last start, K's disappeared, even though he's not really a K guy. Walks jumped up against the D-backs. I'd rather focus on the offenses in this ballpark and in this game. Houston and the Yankees. Hunter Brown, taking on a Yankee squad that obviously can struggle. He's had some struggles in the second half already. Nowhere near as sharp as he was nearly the entire first half. Coming off of his best start in the second half, 1 run allowed in each of his last 2 starts. Key numbers haven't been as strong. I do believe he has hit some sort of a wall. Could he turn it around at any point? Yes. He hasn't been horrendous. One horrendous start here. These aren't the greatest, but at least strikeouts were there. Recent trends as far as strikeouts. The Yankees aren't striking out the last few, but 6th most in baseball on the season on a per game basis. I think Hunter Brown's in play. But I'll be honest, he's one of the spend-ups that I might look to remove from my pool Just because I just don't like the recent performances. And like I mentioned, I do think he's hitting a little bit of a wall. He's still a younger arm. So navigating the long season can be difficult. On the other side, Cam Schlittler, intrigued by the upside, but he's super volatile, super raw. 5 home runs allowed in 4 starts so far. Topped out at 5 1/3 innings. Racks up pitch count early, walks, etc. When things come together, he's going to have big time performances. The problem is trying to get those things to come together. Taking on a Houston squad that just doesn't strike out. 5th fewest in baseball on the season. Last 3, one of the fewest numbers over the last 3. And that looks like the 5th fewest as well. Just not a positive spot for him. So I'm going to pass, but he's somebody that I am paying attention to as each start rolls around, because at some point his sharpness is going to come together and his strikeouts are going to skyrocket in that start where he just doesn't have any walks or maybe 1 walk. I do believe there's a start coming where he goes 6 innings and strikes out 9 or 10. So I'm super intrigued to see who he faces, over the next month, because I do think that's going to happen. Angels, Detroit, Trey Skubal, gotta be the number 1 option for us on the slate without even looking at other names. Has had some rough starts as far as runs allowed. 3 starts over his last 7 where he's allowed 3+ runs. Apologize about my nose. I keep it pretty cold overnight here in my place. So waking up in the morning, it is a little chilly in here. But we grind on. 10+ strikeouts in 4 out of the last 6 starts. Great strikeout matchup, as we point out generally. The Angels striking out the most in baseball. The most in baseball, basically, over the last 3. The White Sox struck out a lot in that series, but just plenty of strikeout upside for Skubal at home. He's a -325 favorite, or at least the Tigers are -325 favorites, so just an easy play, and I'm just not playing Kyle Hendricks on a 14-game slate. If he's the SB2 in all the winning builds tonight, then I guess I'm losing. That's really all I can say about that. Edward Cabrera, Bryce Elder in the next game. Cabrera is somebody that I want to use. I love the upside, love his ability. Was pretty dominant against the Yankees in his last start, allowing just a solo home run. 1 earned run allowed in each of his last 3 starts. I love the spot. He's not as strong on the road. His whip skyrockets. His Ks are slightly stronger, which is nice to see. And this Atlanta lineup just is going to keep underperforming, especially without Acuna. I'd gladly take on that Braves lineup with Cabrera. Bryce Elder, not really somebody I'm interested in. Miami doesn't really strike out, so it's not a spot that we should be relying on when we have 14 games to work with. Savali, been decent, coming off of a spectacular start. 21+ in 3 straight starts. Now, 2 of those starts were against Pittsburgh and the Angels, but 0 earned runs allowed in each of those 3 starts. I'm very intrigued. Cleveland's offense, obviously not overly dangerous, top to bottom, but Savali isn't a big K guy at all. And he kind of needs those strikeouts to kind of get there. 20 strikeouts over his last 17 1/3. So the Ks have been there the last 3 starts. I just don't expect them to be there continually. So he's somebody that's kind of potentially in play, but I might end up passing. Tanner Bybee, I'm going to probably use, and I probably shouldn't. His numbers on the road, pretty bad. Recent trends, not the greatest. The White Sox do come in striking out a lot. Seattle absolutely dominated him from a pitching standpoint. So I'm interested in Bybee a little bit, but I'm going to guess that I don't end up using him. Phillies and the Rangers. Christopher Sanchez definitely in play. Just been strong almost the entirety of the season. K numbers take a little bit of hit on the road. Doesn't allow many home runs on the road. I am completely fine with left-handed pitching against Texas, so Sanchez is somebody I want to utilize. Merrill Kelly, I think he's fine. Was strong against Philly the first time, but he didn't rack up strikeouts, so fantasy points weren't really there. I question if he has the upside we need on a 14-game slate, so I don't think I'm going to get there. Kansas City, Minnesota, I'm probably not going to Lugo. I've been picking on Minnesota. They haven't been striking out over the last three. The fewest in baseball over the last three. Kind of middle of the road on the season. Just not a spot for Lugo for a guy that isn't really striking anybody out. I will pass on Lugo. Joe Ryan, the other side. 27 fantasy points the first time he faced Kansas City. I will be utilizing him, but I'm not going to go super heavy. Kansas City, obviously not a strikeout squad. So I do think Ryan's upside somewhat capped. Woodruff and Senga. Surprisingly, two pitchers that I plan on fading. Probably sounds crazy. Woodruff's been phenomenal since coming back from the IL. With that said, his struggles have come when he's been at home, and the Mets just do not strike out all that much. I know they are struggling a little bit, but just not a squad I want to take on. So I think Woodruff's ceiling is kind of capped or upside, so I'll pass. And Senga, I'm just not going to use. Too many walks, not enough strikeouts. Brewers lineup has been annoying, and I use that as a compliment, but I realize that saying that it does sound like a dig at them. Boyd, definitely somebody I want to utilize. He's been really strong against St. Louis in 2 starts, barely giving up any hits. St. Louis doesn't strike out a whole lot, but still, I do think Boyd's in play because that overall lineup is just weak enough, especially against left-handed pitching. McGreevy doesn't really do it for me. I know the Cubs' offense has been kind of stale, but I do expect them to wake up at any point, especially Kyle Tucker. Could be a Kyle Tucker wake-up point for the Cubs. Colorado, Arizona, no thank you in Gomber. I'm really torn on Zach Gallen. He's really struggled this year. Struggled against Colorado. Struggled at home, which previous years he's been dominant. I think I'm going to have to use Zach Gallen, but it feels gross with the way that he's thrown the baseball. Boston, San Diego. Nick Pivetta is always going to be in play, especially at home. He's been absolutely dominant at home with San Diego. I think there's plenty of upside. 23-plus fantasy points in 6 of his last 7 starts. Hasn't really had a big K game in a little while, but he's somebody that I want to utilize. Walker Buehler, no thank you. San Diego doesn't strike out all that much, plus he doesn't pick up strikeouts. Luis Castillo at home is somebody that I'm interested in. Tampa Bay on the road is a weaker offense. I think he has some upside. 8.1K, pretty decent price point. The other side, Drew Rasmussen, I think he's in play, but his pitch count is still somewhat limited. Seattle does strike out, but do we want to rely on a limited pitch count? I'm not sure. Toronto and the Dodgers, no thank you on either pitcher. The aging guys, good throwback matchup from a pitching standpoint, but no thank you from the pitching for today's game. And Washington, San Francisco, I have no interest in either pitcher as well. So, there we have it. There's our first look at the pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc. I will put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And again, we have our merch store. I will drop a link in the description below. You can check out my hoodie. You can get that on a sticker, on a coffee cup, t-shirt, whatever you go with. Getting to be nearly hoodie season, so it is time to pick one of these up. I look forward to wearing mine. A little delay in getting mine, but that's alright. Hopefully you guys are enjoying yours out there. But as always, best of luck, everybody.